Welcome to an episode of Shh, Let Your Dog Talk. I'm your host, Eric Gonzalez, with my four-legged companion, K9 Judah. Judah, stand. Circle. Good. Judah, stand. Circle. Good. Sit. Pretty. That's a good boy. Down. How are you? Hey, we're live, okay? All right, so you got to play the role. All right, guys, listen. Unfortunately, we had a glitch with our previous recording. What we tried to do was we tried to go live without a pre-recording, and it didn't work out based on the fact that our equipment was inappropriate based to some equipment that we were unaware of, interfaces or what have you. My engineer worked it out, so now we have the microphone going directly to the computer, and therefore we're going to try it like this, and therefore I got to rewind a lot of what I had talked about. It was very important for myself to ensure that you all knew pretty much our history, our foundation, why I qualified to speak into your life. I'm privy right now to speak into the life of many, and I've mentored a lot of people, some more successful than others, but nonetheless a good variety of people throughout the years. I've gotten good reports from people internationally about my skills, and really not my skills per se, but based on what they've seen my dogs do, such as Judah's performances or what have you. Obviously, being the owner, the breeder, what have you, obviously I get the credit. But you know what? Shh, let your dog talk is all about that. It's about letting your dog talk. If you are skillful in this area or in that area, rather than boasting, rather than opening your mouth, a lot of times it's best just let the dog talk. All right? So this is the purpose in which the show was birthed. So let me just give you a brief synopsis. Throughout the years, I've had the privilege of being mentored by many very reputable individuals in the industry. I call them the ghosts of my generation. Since the day I met them, and to this day, they remain ghosts. Greatest of all time is what that means. And so what happens is I've had the privilege of being under some of the best trainers around the world. One of the individuals that I take much pride to say he's mentored me is a good friend of mine, Omar Mueller. Well, Omar Mueller is a world-renowned trainer currently excelling extremely high in the Hollywood industry, in the movie industry when it comes to movies pertaining dogs and things like that. He's done so many, too many to even mention. Well, when I started in the industry in the early 90s, he was the first one that took the time to really mentor me. So there was a season in which I was paying to learn how to train. And then I found as I would communicate with him without even asking for a dime, he would literally take time to teach me. There was a season in which he was here locally in South Florida, and I found myself just giving back by just being there and just being his shadow, cleaning up dog poop, doing this, doing that. Besides that, when he moved, it was like at that level of respect for what he imparted in me. I have much respect for. I remember telling him one time, whenever he comes into town and we're hanging out, his money's no good around me because I had that level of respect for him. When he got married, I remember he invited, those close to him. And in the industry, the canine industry, I, along with Tony Guzman, and I'll mention him in a minute, were the only ones in the industry that were invited to his wedding. And I felt honored by that. Having mentioned Tony Guzman is a gentleman that's here in town. He's local. And he's also a GOAT in the industry, one that's considered the greatest of all times in this industry. Now, Tony, though all of them are very proficient in different diversities of the industry, Tony Guzman currently excels extremely in the government side of things as far as law enforcement, as far as government contracts, whether it be doing detection on the ships. He owns Garrison, I think Garrison or what have you. It's a detection industry. A detection company that he owns, where he pretty much has contracts with all the ports around the country. He has contracts with law enforcement all around the country. He has a training regimen with some of his dogs that's like a vape concept where they follow dogs in the middle of a crowd to follow people that are walking around with bombs or what have you, like terrorists or what have you. Those dogs go for like $55,000. And so Tony Guzman is one that, he's another one that I esteem as one of my mentors. There are those like Phil Holscher that throughout the years I've had the privilege of sitting under as well and allowing them to just speak into my life. I remember when I was dealing with Phil Holscher. Phil Holscher is one that, again, though they're proficient in all the areas, he tends to excel in the sport world, of shits and IPO, what have you. And there was a season in which in the 90s, I was shadowing them and learning and getting beat up, putting on the suits and going through 7, 8, 9, 10 dogs in the hot summer sun of South Florida and just learning. You know, sometimes when you want it that bad, you got to make sure to, you know, strap your boots, get out there, and the experience is what's really going to give you the opportunity to eventually be heard. And so much by allowing myself to be submitted under these individuals throughout the years, even another gentleman by the name of Kenny Jackson, by another gentleman by the name of Kenny Jackson, who was another individual who I would sit under. Not only them, I've had people like Dr. Salmon. Dr. Salmon is a doctor here in town. He's a gynecologist. He learned throughout his generation of studies or what have you about baby genetics. And so what he did was he took that knowledge and he threw it into the canine industry as a canine enthusiast that he is. He is a world-renowned trainer, a GOAT in that industry. And what I do when I'm around these guys, I shut up and I listen. You know what I'm saying? Even to date, even though I feel like I've made it to a certain degree, I tell people I'm a kid becoming a GOAT. You know what I'm saying? A kid is a baby GOAT. I'm a kid, hopefully one day to be esteemed as a GOAT, one that would be considered, great in my time or what have you. So those are the type of people that I had the privilege of sitting under and allowing myself to be mentored under people as such. And that's what it's all about. To be a mentor, you have to have been mentored. And to be mentored, you have to allow humility to be a factor in your life. Now, one of the young gentlemen that I've had the privilege of mentoring of many throughout the last several years, I remember this individual being new to the industry, learning what have you. I remember he would show a sense of irritation and frustration from certain comments or what have you, maybe fellow trainers, maybe a client here, a client there, what have you. And I remember getting to the point where it was just like, you know what, just let your dog talk. Now, to be honest with you, it wasn't as vague as such. It was more like, shut up, let your dog talk. There was sometimes like, bro, shut the and let your dog talk, all right? And so from that experience, I found that I wound up conveying that to many people thereafter. People will come to me, fellow trainers or what have you, this, that, or whatever, and I will say you have to get to a position where you have to let your dog talk. And basically, what happens is I remember one time going to a seminar, and it was a seminar that I partook here in West Palm Beach in South Florida, and the speaker was Bart Ballon, another world-renowned trainer of this generation. And I remember paying several $100s to participate in that. And I remember not necessarily on the podium, but you know when you get 10-minute breaks or what have you, and you kind of huddle around him and pick his brain or what have you during those little 10, 15-minute breaks, intervals. Well, I remember walking up to one of those moments and him conveying to somebody, had it not been for his dog Thor, he wouldn't have been as recognized as he ultimately became, the world-renowned trainer we all know as Bart Ballon. And so Bart Ballon said himself that had it not been for his own dog, Thor, he wouldn't have been nothing. So, you know what? At the end of the day, let your dog talk. Your dog is trained. Your dog is obedient trained. Your dog is protection trained. Your dog is this, that, or whatever. It's always best to and just show it. Let your dog talk for you. Because of what I've done with Judah throughout the years, Judah has spoken for me in the sense that I've had people come alongside me and invest in business because of the success that I have had with Judah. In other words, I've learned let my dog talk to convey my experience. Like, you could talk about being the best trainer in the world. It doesn't matter. If you don't have a product to show off, it's for nothing. All right? I tell all my trainers, all the guys that I mentor, when they mentor under me, they're required to get a puppy and pretty much raise them and teach them and show them so that when they fly the coop from under my care, they have the dog that's speaking for them. You see what I'm saying? It takes many years to be proficient at what you do. And so it's important that in this industry, like breeders, I'm a trainer, but like breeders, I always tell a breeder, if you have a good trained dog, you'll be surprised how many puppies you tend to sell, because the psychology behind it is if the mom or the dad can do that, what can I expect of the actual puppy. You know what I'm saying? It's a psychological factor, but it works. So letting your dog talk, whether you're a breeder, whether you're a trainer, you gotta let your dog talk to really solidify. I know there are those out there that believe that their clients' dogs are their demo dogs, but no. If you are a trainer, you're serious about this. You want to make sure that you have a dog that speaks for you. And in many instances, not just a dog, but several dogs, maybe a history of dogs and or dogs at the moment. Like I have Canine Judah right now hanging out with me, but I also have Baruch. Little Baruch is a little Frenchie. And so being that we're launching this for the first time in this era, in this season, I wanted to make sure to start it off with Judah, but I also have a couple other demo dogs that I'm working on. I have a puppy of Judah. I actually have a couple of puppies that belong to Judah that, they will be coming up behind him. But at the same time, I have Frenchies and other dogs that we're preparing or what have you to show a diversity in your training skills. A lot of times when you're training just shepherds, a lot of times people think you can only train police dogs and you're not proficient with these little dogs or what have you. And it's important to understand that these little dogs are trainable, what have you. So that's where we're at. I wanted to take time to do this introduction. Unfortunately, as I said, we had problems and glitches with our previous recording, so it's important that I do this. It's important if I go to the hospital, I'm not gonna let the janitor look at me. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna make sure that it's a licensed physician to be able to speak into my life if I choose to take that route of care, health care. You know what I'm saying? Especially now with all this COVID-19 stuff going on, I'm not gonna let the janitor come up to me and give me advice if he's not wearing that white coat as a doctor or nurse would be wearing. So it's important for you guys to understand the history. My background goes as far. I've been to Afghanistan as a kennel master. I wrote a book in 2007 when I was in the Department of Corrections. I remember it all started with a gentleman that bought an $800 to $1,000 Rottweiler, and having bought this Rottweiler for $800 to $1,000, this was in the early '90s, like '95. I thought the guy was crazy. Back then I could recall buying dogs for like $100, $100, dogs, backyard breeders. So I remember this gentleman. He was a co-worker, a fellow correction officer. He was a fellow correction officer, and he had just bought this Rottweiler. He was an enthusiast, and so that's where my history pretty much really started. Because what I wound up doing was I wound up grabbing the magazine that he showed me. I wound up contacting a Rottweiler club here local at the time, Gulfstream Rottweiler Club. Hooked up with the president, I think Grace Acosta. She was the president, and I ran with it. And ever since then, it's been nonstop. When the Department of Corrections decided to go for a position for a canine supervisor, I had been involved with this Rottweiler club, so it gave me a leverage. And so in the Department of Corrections, 50-something people applied for the position. 50-something people, 20-something actually got interviewed. I got hired. And so by being hired, the department dispersed me throughout the state of Florida, learning different realms of training. At the time, we were dealing a lot with what they call it, man training, escapees or what have you. And so a lot of my foundation started there. From there, I wound up getting involved with the Inspector General's office, which was a detection unit where we had a vehicle, our weapons, and we would travel the state of Florida doing drug interdiction throughout all state facilities, government facilities that were state related. We were also contracted to go out with small agencies that didn't have the budget, like the bigger agencies. Your big agencies would be your LAPD, your NYPD, your Miami-Dade PD, Miami PD, or what have you. Those are like big major agencies that have budgets to buy dogs or what have you. So when I was with the Inspector General's office, what happened was a lot of little agencies, South Bay or what have you, they would contract us to go alongside them and do, stops throughout the city or what have you, and do drug interdiction. So we would jump in our vehicles, disappear for weekends at a time, and we were constantly on the road. And I did that for quite some time, for a couple of years. So from corrections with the man trailers, we went into the detection game, and then from there we just continued to go on. I wound up writing a book in 2008. As I said, went to Afghanistan as a kennel master or what have you. And because of all of my history, I was able to have these privileged positions or what have you throughout my career. And so that's what it's all about. It's about having that knowledge and that understanding, having history. that people can glean off of. Okay, it's important to understand that. When I take Judah to schools throughout the city, it could be an elementary school, junior high, like universities. I've gone through universities or what have you to pretty much go with these dogs. One of the things that the people are amazed by is the prices I've been offered, the cost that I've been offered to purchase my dog. I've been offered independently $30,000 by one client, $50,000 by another. And when you really think about it, it's all about the obedience that the dog has, about the education that the dog. So it's important to, no matter what you're doing in life, educate yourself. I took the time to educate myself in this industry, and it paid off. Now let me tell you something. When you love something bad enough, when you really love something bad enough, you'd be surprised how the people in your immediate circle can deter that. I remember losing relationships because of my zeal for what I believed in. I remember being married and unfortunately, being encouraged to give it up because at the time the money wasn't as lucrative. You know what I'm saying? And that, we would have these dogs and the food or what have you. The sales weren't there. The training contracts weren't as fluent or what have you. And so I remember a season of just being discouraged from believing in what I believed in. And so 20 plus years later, I've opened several facilities throughout the years, my own facilities. We're in the process of trying to expand in different cities. I got different people that are willing to touch and agree, that want their own businesses, that want Bite Life to be a shadow partner for them or what have you. So we've gone to that. Now we're possibly going into some product lines, Bite Life products. We're also looking to go from the product line. We're also looking at a university, a canine university or what have you, once we're over this COVID-19 and we can gather again. So there's different facets in which the company has pretty much made itself available from an investment perspective because of the years and the experience in all of these different capacities. So this is a little bit of who I am, Eric Gonzalez, 49 years old. Listen, guys, I look like a millennial from here down, but, I'm actually 49 years old, and as you can pretty much tell from this part up, I'm an OG. So I say that jokingly, guys. I'm confident. I believe I'm going to live to be about 120, just my faith. People tell me often, man, you don't act your age. I got that youth in me, and it's because I believe in me. I believe I'm going to get somewhere. I'm going to go somewhere. And I tell this to people all the time. About 20 years ago, I said I want to have my own facility. 20 years later, I have my facility. I had my first facility, I think, in 2011 in the Doral area. I said it, I believed it, and I got it. 20 years later, but I got it. I remember getting to South Florida when I was 13 years old and seeing a picture of a boat with like Christmas lights on it. They were solid white, though. They were like these white Christmas lights all around the boat. And I remember saying, I'm going to have a boat one day. To be honest, it took me almost about 30 years to get the boat, but I got it. You know what I'm saying? I got the boat. So what am I saying by that? What I'm saying is, whatever you believe in, it doesn't matter how long it takes. When you believe in it, run with it. All right, if you believe in it, run with it. And you faint not through the journey, you'll get there. All right, so again, this is just an introduction. We're gonna go potentially live, and actually, we're gonna wind up doing another one for the COVID-19. But we're gonna end it here. Our shows are gonna be pretty much on Wednesdays, 4:30, for about 20 minutes. I got about a minute and 15 seconds left. I can't close it out without introducing and thanking my engineer. All right, the infamous hand. And so listen, this is not a one-man show. We're trying to give you a professional setting. Listen, I'm a real kind of guy. I like to have fun. I like to talk. I have a lot of knowledge, and I'm gonna just spit it out. What I would encourage you guys to do is the following: send me questions. And the following episode, your question might be the precedence of the conversation. All right, so listen, I'm looking forward to hearing from all of y'all. All right, there's a lot of knowledge here. Take advantage of it. Judah and I are here to entertain you guys. I'll be your host. He'll be your performer. He looks kind of beat up and tired right now. Judah, come here. Down. Cover your face. No, cover. That's your good boy. Cover, all right? All right, guys. Listen, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you got something out of that, and it has established a sense of confidence for you guys to continuously tune in. All right, guys? Take care, and looking forward to seeing you next week.